preliminaries. We are looking for our top 4 teams that will secure their spot for the PCC NA main event. I'm HDPhillyB, and on the desk here to guide you through our winner bracket final is the one and only Spooky Mars and player extraordinaire Blue Jay. Spooky, we'll start with you. How you feeling for this best of 3 grand finals, my friend?
I mean, Philly, we just came off the back of an incredibly tight best of 3 set, and it did go all 3 games. Flowstate ends up taking it, and now we get to see even more from that team. I mean, what more could I possibly want on a Sunday than to see some high-octane, high-level predecessor action? And now they get to go up against Mach 10, which is an absolutely stacked roster. This is going to be a great game to watch.
Blue Jay, you know there's no love lost between some of these teams. Mercy, a former member of Mach 10, formerly known as the Leftovers PCC ex-champions. Now he's going against his former team as a former player. What does that feel like when you have to go against a team like that?
It feels like a little jittery, to be honest. I've been in a similar situation, and especially in a stage like this where this is to make the finals, in July. So this is a huge game. People think, you just get sent to losers. Like, no, you have to play at least 2-3 more matches if you get sent down in this game. So it's a lot of pressure, but Mercy as a player and as a guy that I know is just very confident in general. So I don't think that jitters will get to him too much, but when in doubt, it's going to be an amazing game. And I'm just super excited to watch this one.
Absolutely, and this is for a $10,000 grand prize. The winner of this match will be the grand fight their way through. Spooky, both of these teams just went through the gauntlet in their first series of the day. Mach 10 winning 2-0 against Team Immune, and then Flowstate winning in a 2-1 fashion. What does that do to your mental, having to go through so many games before such a high-octane set?
It's a bit of a mixed bag, right? Because Flowstate, they get more games in to kind of warm up on, make sure everything is moving correctly for them. But it also means there's a little bit more fatigue there. It also means their opponents have a little bit more information. They have shown more than they've seen from their opposition. Well, meanwhile, Mach 10, they came off the back of defeating in a 2-0 fashion a very impressive team. Team Immune looked phenomenal throughout the day yesterday. So seeing them taken down so cleanly, I mean, that raises a little bit of concerns for one team. But on the other hand, it just means Mach 10 is feeling that much better, right? They just took down this behemoth. They're rearing and ready to go.
Absolutely, and both of these teams had a 40-minute game in both of their sets, so like a long standing competition. Blue Jay, we've seen a lot of different looks from both of these squads. Revenant and Sparrow kind of really been the 2 ADCs that we've seen the most. I'm not a big fan of the Sparrow. What are your thoughts on that character?
Yeah, I mean, that character, just with a few of the changes that came in the patch, has been, kind of explode to the front lines for people. It's a character that a lot of teams have wanted to play for a long time, so I think they're excited that it's here in the meta. We're seeing with the two first ban systems as well that there's just a lot of characters that are pretty bannable right now for those first 2 on both sides. So you're seeing a lot of these ADCs that could be in that mix being actually pulled into the top 3 picks in these drafts, and it's getting put in some exciting games right now. And seeing that Sparrow to Revenant matchup really can decide some games, because the Revenant has a lot of priority in a few early game objective fights, being able to ult the jungler out, win the 1v1. But once the Sparrow hits around that 3 item spike, the game just kind of can get out of control if you don't have the correct CC and champions to actually deal with her in those late game stages. So
Absolutely, and the only way to find out whether Sparrow or Revenant or both or neither will be picked is to go into the draft. We have it ready for you. It is Flowstate versus Mach 10. I believe Mach 10 will have the first ban in this one. We've been seeing a lot of those two. We've been seeing the Monkey being banned. We've been seeing the Rampage being banned, Seraph as well. The Countess has not yet been banned. Do we expect her to be in that first round? Go with you, Spooky.
I don't know if I expect the Countess to be banned away. It's good, but it feels more like it's brought out in certain situations where if those don't pull up, you're maybe not really looking to pull that Countess out. There's things that are just stronger, things like the Rampage, things like the Klong, things like the Iggy, which are thankfully banned away. Get that thing out of here. I'd also like to maybe switch Blue Jay and Philly, because Blue Jay says things I like, and Philly says things I don't like as much. But I would expect to kind of see that Revenant and Sparrow matchup again. We haven't seen them get banned out against each other too often. We've seen, I think, 1 Revenant ban so far today, and it worked out. You take it away and it doesn't work out for the other team as well. But there's just other things that are more important, like that Seraph who can get on top of you and do so much damage while not being targetable, that it feels like these ADCs are really kind of falling through and being allowed to get played.
Absolutely. And we see the Decker getting banned. You know, the CC Queen just has all the things in the kit to lock everybody down. And then the Seraph as well. That's to be expected, especially with her augments. Blue Jay, what do we think? The Fang Mao also taken off the board.
Yeah, no, I mean, these bans are definitely targeted for these teams. Mercy is a very, very good Seraph player and kind of made his claim to fame with that champion. Mach 10 obviously respecting him as he's shown out pretty well in the tournament. And the Feng Mao ban coming out from Flowstate is directed at North and is actually a pick that can be played in the off lane and the jungle for the team of Mach 10. And no surprise, Morn comes out. This has been a staple support character with an amazing ult for engaging team fights, disengaging team fights, and just all around is a very disruptive character. And then Countess coming off the back end for Flowstate. You know, this is probably going to be in the offlane, but this is actually one of the teams that can flex the Countess into the jungle, which is very important when, you know, prowling this character for teams.
Yeah, as your opening pick, you want to try to disrupt the other team's draft strategy. Okay, are they going to go with that? Are they going to put him in the jungle, etc.? But right now, Countess offlane seems very strong. They can take down a lot of tanks with their passive, doing that 8%, you know, max damage for their health. We're seeing the Revenant, Spooky. You got to love that.
You know, we always love seeing the Revenant. It does signal that we'll see that Sparrow as well. Not banned away. You've already got the Morn locked in for Mach 10. Makes sense to round out your duo lane, not hide too much. Make sure you get that before the next wave of bans comes through. No surprise there. The Revenant, though, with this Countess means there's already a lot of damage on the side of Flowstate. And if they do decide to flex it into the jungle, that means they can also bring someone out into that off lane, have a tank.
Sure.
Or they could just decide, you know what, we want the Countess in off lane. We want to go just triple damage and blow people up. But they have the option to wait until they see more of Mach 10's draft. They get to see another ban phase, get an idea of what they want to do before they commit this Countess pick anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think Mach 10's pretty, they're laying their cards out, right? You got your support, you got your carry, you got your mid lane. Now, if you're Flowstate, you want to get a jungler off the board, right? And then you're probably going to ban another jungler yourself. Blue Jay, what do you think about that strategy?
Yeah, I mean, I do like the strategy. You're also taking a big counter pick in the Rampage offlane away from the Countess, which could have been picked up on the side of Mach 10. Rampage is able to actually stick to the Countess, unlike a lot of other characters in the offlane. So taking that away is kind of like a, you know, taking away something from the enemy as well as upgrading your own team. I really like Mach 10's draft right now, though. They kind of have a nice core dual lane, mid lane kind of synergy right now with the Bellica, Morn, Sparrow. But we'll see what they pick up. We see the Crunch ban and also the Argus ban coming out from Mach 10. The Crunch ban is probably targeted towards North. He's a very good Crunch player. And we'll kind of see what comes out in this. I do like the side of Mach 10, but Flowstate kind of building more of a lane dominant kind of pick comp you're seeing right now. But we'll see what ends up happening in the draft. It's pretty good so far from both teams.
Absolutely. And Bondruid, also very lethal Crunch as well. So double getting that off the board for sure. The Argus going, see you later, short man. But we have the Gideon, a nice team fight ultimate, a very secure mid laner, Spooky, being picked up for Flowstate.
Nice and safe, has good poke, can help you out a lot in the team fights as well. Gideon just kind of does everything you want from a mid laner. Doesn't quite have like the safest ultimate in the game, but if you've got a Rampage and a Countess on your side, there's not a whole lot of people who have time to look up into the sky and say, hey, get the Space Wizard down from there. Please CC him. There's a lot more problems to be worrying about. And you've got the Revenant as well. So if there is someone you're worried about knocking out of that black hole, you could just toss them into the Shadow Realm, get them out of the fight entirely, and let the rest of your team just do the work. I actually really like the synergy here.
Absolutely. And Blue Jay, just to round us out here on Mach 10, we're seeing the Monkey and the Greystone. They could both be offlane or jungle. What do you think?
Yeah, I really like the Greystone pickup here. It's actually something that was being prowled in scrims a lot higher and getting banned a lot, but as the tournament's kind of gone on, I think teams have kind of shied away from this pick. What I'm seeing right now with the Greystone Monkey pick is that there's not a lot of CC on the Flowstate side until they picked up this Richter. I was actually expecting a Richter ban on the side of Mach 10 because it's something that is actually picked as an answer into the Morn in the dual lane that kind of boxes really well with it and can kind of disrupt it in team fights. But Flowstate picking up the Richter, I think, is a great pick. I think this was what they had to do because you just can't let a Greystone run at you with only, 2 forms of CC that you have on your team currently. So yeah, I think the Richter was a good pickup. I still think I prefer Mach 10's team comp a little bit, but Flowstate definitely have, a chance in this game to get ahead and kind of snowball their picks forward. So.
Absolutely. Both of these team comps have a lot going for it. Spooky, which one do you like the best?
So you see, I understand what Blue Jay is saying, and he's probably right, but I'm a vibes-based guy, right? I'm biased. I've been watching Flowstate these past 3 games, and
save up to 30% during the 4th of July sale at Raymore and Flanagan. Plus, combine select mattress sale pricing with interest-free financing for up to 72 months. Hurry in to save up to 30% during Raymore and Flanagan's 4th of July sale.
I know what justice is. I know what it looks like.
Every day, I wake up and I try to honor that promise that I made to this city and the people who live here. That's who I am.
in my core, the very heart of my being, I believe in the flow state. I look over this draft, you've got Revenant from about so much damage. You've got Gideon to help pack it up. Richter has great setup, good heal. Even the Rampage, you can use him to help heal if this Greystone is getting to be a problem. Toss a rock at him. Toss a second rock at him afterwards with the Gideon. You've got rock slinging synergies. We love that in the house. But overall, I do think they have a really good pick composition as well, where they can look for some of these targets, namely the Sparrow, take her out of the fight before you get to the actual team fight, and then commit to an objective from there. I think they've set up very well for that particular game plan, and it's one we've seen them do a couple times already.
If that happens, then you're for sure. We got pick comp versus a good team fight composition on the other side in Mach 10. Blue Jay, you already stated that you liked this side. What's your favorite part about this squad?
Mach 10, I just like their chase potential, honestly. If whatever team is going to be on the front foot is probably going to end up winning this game, Mach 10 with the Mornall can kind of just chase people down with the Wukong, with the Greystone. But like Spooky was saying, the Flowstate side does have a lot of things that can get to the Sparrow. And when you're looking at this side of Mach 10, they don't have a lot of CC, or at least dependable CC, to be able to actually push back a Rampage jumping on top of your Sparrow, a Countess jumping on top of your Sparrow, right? So it's a lot falls on the Morn in this game, and the Bellica to use her ability to actually peel instead of being aggressive, which can be a real big problem if you're playing that Bellica in the mid lane and you're not able to actually push forward and be aggressive with your abilities. So yeah, it's kind of going to depend on who's going to get the jump out and kind of be more aggressive in these team fights.
All right, well, can Mach 10 protect their carry, and can Flowstate crash upon them for victories? To walk us through it, we're going to send it back to Ritter and Lance.
Game 1 and the performance out of Mach 10. Let's throw it back to them.
Thank you, Lance and Ritterific. Mach 10 zooming to victory, outpacing Flowstate in all stages of the game. Spooky, I know you and I were talking during the match. What were some of the difference makers that you saw between the squads?
I mean, it really felt like Mach 10 kind of just lived up to their name and started this game off very quickly. They knew what they wanted to do, and that was limit what Maguli can do in that dual lane. There was a lot of focus put into making sure that this Revenant didn't scale up as quickly as he wanted to. And frankly, the control was felt across the map. I'm glad we had that little clip there, the highlight of BKB going down, because there was just so much pressure that it really didn't feel like Flowstate could breathe and get their feet under them at any point in the game.
My friends, Blue Jay, you were just talking about it, highlighting the Greystone. It was a teeter-totter over there in the off lane. They were, BKB was winning for a while, then it was Bondrewd, and then in the end you're like, Greystone, look at this build, he's unkillable.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, the Greystone, one thing I want to know is that the comp on the side of Flowstate, there's not a lot of things that actually deal a lot of damage to this Greystone. You don't have an Iggy, you don't have a gadget in the mid lane able to pump a lot of damage throughout these fights, so the Greystone can just kind of run wild if he's not CC'd and, kind of getting chain CC'd in that way. I really like what Norf did. He realized kind of what we were saying before the game started that whoever kind of got that first punch in and was able to put the gas on was going to end up winning this game. And he went right into the level 3 gank for the off lane, got the Greystone, that kill when it mattered, and was just kind of able to snowball the game from there. Like I said, there wasn't a lot of damage to be outputted from this Flowstate side that was able to really compete with the Mach 10 side. So I think that the early game played a huge factor in this, and whatever team was going to end up getting ahead was going to end up taking the game by a landslide, which is what ended up happening.
Absolutely. And Flowstate, they kind of went with this assassin pink pick comp, but kind of fell flat because then they were trying to team fight and it couldn't really work. A lot of it rested on that Waddle and Warden trying to get a Rip Blast. We saw a couple missed skewers. Maybe they'll have to pick a different character for Peak to play moving forward. Spooky, what kind of adjustment, if they're going to ban out the Decker, what other support can they play?
Honestly, I don't even know if it necessarily needs to be a hero change, right? Because it felt to me like a lot of the problems that Flowstate was encountering was in the gameplay and how they were approaching certain situations. We watch a lot of that map, and they approach things very disjointedly, right? They're very split up in fights. They're fighting when they really don't need to be, and they're getting aggressive where they don't have to be. I would point out Maguli, especially there. A lot of times he goes into the Reckoning, and he goes forward for those kills. And yeah, he gets a kill or two, but when you come out, when you're back in the realm of the living, you find yourself in the middle of the enemy team, and it's very easy for them to turn around and just take them out. Maybe you look for something that's more aggressive, maybe something like a Steel that can pair up with that mentality of we want to push forward, we want to find those kills, just so that they can create that space and find the lockdowns to try to give Maguli the space he wants to play.
Yeah, I really like that strategy. Well, folks, if you're keeping track at home, it's a victory for the Sparrow this time around versus the Revenant. I feel like the side of Mach 10 did a really good job of protecting the Sparrow. And Blue Jay, I think that was because of the Greystone, right? Just being able to run at people and not die.
Yeah, I mean, Sparrow plays the best when her frontliners are pushing forward, right? When no one's able to touch her in the backline, right? She's one of the best, if not the best ADC at walking forward and dealing absurd amounts of damage, right? And that's exactly what happened. I do want to highlight North in that game. He plays one of the most insane Wukongs I've ever seen. And he's just all around the map, pertaining to like a lot of other players who are actually really good at that character. North just seems like he's the currently best right now, in my opinion. So I really like what he was doing on the map. Like I said, Flowstate is a team, though, that tends to do a lot of interesting, like people would call it weird things, but very aggressive nature of play that they have. So I don't want to see them take the foot off the gas necessarily. It's what got them here, and I really want to see them come out with an aggressive jungle pick in this next game and really try to take charge on the map and just keep pushing forward and not really turtle back and say, oh, let's play a big wombo combo team fight comp. I want them to play a very aggressive push forward comp and kind of come back with a little bit of an attitude in this next game.
Absolutely, folks. There is still more Predecessor to play. This is a best of 3 for a ticket to the grand finals, automatically in the money match for the PCC Summer Series NA. Folks, we're going to head to a short break. We'll see you on the other side.
The last Koru Shinzo, an ascendant warrior of Soul.
Welcome back, Predecessor fans. If that bumper doesn't get you pumped up, then this match certainly will. HDPhillyB here with a couple of lovely folks on the desk. We have Lizadeth here with us today. Liz, how you feeling?
I'm feeling great. These games have been phenomenal, and not to mention Flowstate running things, and this Mach team is giving them a run for their money, so I am super excited for this game too.
Absolutely, and we have player proficionado Blue Jay with us. You were saying before we went to the break, you want Flowstate to keep putting the pedal to the metal. Will they do just that?
Yeah, no, I'm really hoping. Knowing Mercy, I think that they're going to come out and just play the way they usually do, which I'm super excited to see. But yeah, I don't think the cause of this game is that they should back off at all and switch up the team comps that they are not used to playing. I think they should come out, get a carry jungler, really focus around moving around the map with a little bit more efficiency, and kind of pull things back in the dual lane department, but really push forward when it comes to setting up for objectives, pushing down mid lane, rotating across the map. I really want them to kind of come out with an aggressive mentality.
For sure, and the only way to see is to go into the draft, which we have ready for you, thanks to our producer Choice Plays for popping it up. Speaking of those carry junglers, we're thinking about the Seraph. Even the Rampage can kind of flex into that. I would love to see the Mercy play the Seraph. We saw him in the Content Creator Cup just run and train through people. So let's see if that makes its way through. Right now, Mach 10 banning out the Decker first again. Liz, what do you make of that?
The Decker, not surprising there. She was really giving them a run for their money there. So it's kind of one of those things that it's, I'm really excited to see the Decker kind of having some prio in the bans. It kind of makes me happy since that's one of the first heroes I started with. So it's really nice to see people really prioritizing a Decker ban coming into these comps now. Really not surprising to see the Iggy ban, those 4 turrets. No one wants to deal with it, especially on the objectives where Mach 10 just had the slight edge. I don't think that's something they really want anybody to have their hands on right now.
Yeah, I know me and Dr. Shadow are jumping for joy because the Decker is being banned. Blue Jay, it's the Seraph that's taken off the board.
Yeah, no, I didn't think that the Decker or the Seraph was going to come through. Decker is one of Peak's, signature champions and is a support that can traverse the map really, really well, move around with that jungle pairing and push into the enemy team's, side and really disrupt the environment of the game. So yeah, taking the 2 best champions for the jungle and the support off the other team is just a smart move by Mach 10. But I do like seeing the Wukong ban coming out from Flowstate, making North get off the champion that he's really comfortable on, just had an outstanding performance on, and making him switch up his character pool a little bit. But North has a pretty extensive character pool, so I don't think it's going to really limit the team other than make the game a little bit easier for Flowstate to play in the early stages.
For sure. I mean, I was rubbing my eyes. It was a little bit of deja vu in terms of the bans, but with the Wukong, that's showing how the players are making adjustments from game to game. Liz, the Sparrow, the first pick? They're just putting it all out there.
I definitely think they're going to go ahead and prioritize that dual lane, kind of how they did last time. They did really well, and, Blue Jay said it best. They had a really great front line, and getting her back there, and they were really confident in that. And honestly, especially with Magoli having that Revenant, again, what are we going to do to answer it? We're going to take the Sparrow, and especially if we can keep that front line, I think they did really well in banning out that Wukong to kind of hopefully counter that. But like you said, North is North, and he's going to play what he's got to have to play.
A good opening set of picks here for the side of Flowstate. Getting the Morn and the Bellica, maybe the Revenant might sneak through because we know the Revenant Morn is a really powerful lane. Blue Jay, what characters or what players are going to be piloting these 2 heroes that we see for Flowstate?
I mean, I'm assuming the Morn is going to go into the support. Peak loves playing Morn. He actually plays a Morn, the Spider-Man Morn, they call it, and he's very good at it. But really, the Morn in the other game was very good with the Sparrow because it allows a disengage factor for Sparrow. It allows her to be able to kite back in the team fight as well as run forward if she needs to. So I really like taking that pick away from the side of Mach 10 and running with the Morn. And the Bellica is just a stable CC character. That's probably going to go into the mid lane. But we'll end up seeing, we see some beef coming out on the side of Sevarog Steel. And one of the oldest concepts in competitive predecessor is when Bellica's picked, just pick a bunch of tanks to be able to run at her so they don't get one shot. And I think Mach 10 is kind of abiding into this carry Sparrow comp, which is just a bunch of tanks and Sparrow behind just pumping out millions of damage. So yeah, that's kind of what they're falling into.
Absolutely, and that dual lane's very strong. You can put the steel wall down, you can have the Sparrow shoot through it, people come out, they get slowed, it can be very oppressive. Wouldn't be surprised to see a Countess come out on the other side at some point, but like we predicted, the Revenant here, Liz, for the side of Flowstate.
Yeah, Revenant, especially Magoli, he's really comfortable with it. And especially if they're not going to take it away from him, they're going to play that Sparrow. I think they're always going to probably pick up that Revenant, to be honest. Maybe unless they switched it up to something else. But even then, unless it gets banned, I think he's always going to kind of fall back onto it. But of course, we do see the Feng Mao getting banned. I'm not really surprised there. And of course, the Countess, like you were talking about, Philly, they don't want to see that. And I think that's a very viable option here. And so I think that's a really smart ban coming out of this.
Yeah, she's very lethal in the offlane, can really deal with tanks really, really well. But they're also limiting, I believe it's North's pool, right? I don't think North will play the Sevarog in the jungle here, Blue Jay. What other junglers are left? Possibly maybe the Greystone in the jungle?
Yeah, I mean, you have the Greystone. You have a pick that I really like right now, actually, the Chimera. I know it's not a huge meta pick, but I think it would actually be decent into this comp right here. Flowstate taking the Greystone away, nice option. I don't really like the Rev pick, though, in this angle. I really think if you're going to pick the Rev, you want a more aggressive dual lane, and I know Morn can play that style, but I really would have liked to see maybe a Skylar here or something a little bit different along the lines to be able to shred those tanks a little faster. I won't be surprised if we do get like a gadget or a Faye coming out of this team. We do have the Greystone and the Morn here, and I know that Faye is decent into both of those characters. So I'm kind of excited to see what Mach 10 comes out with, but they definitely do need a little bit more damage to pump. But we see the Argus actually coming out, so that's actually pretty interesting on my end. They're really putting a lot of faith in the Sparrow to be able to pump out damage in these team fights.
Yeah, I like the Argus. He can do a little bit of setup, right? If they're the Dreadnova, then Subjugate, or Subjugate and a Dreadnova, then you go for Sealed Slam, things like that. So definitely is a good setup. And then North getting the crunch. I'm excited to see him pilot this character. He's going to be looking to assassinate the backline, bob and weave his way through the ranks, put the hurt on Maguli. Liz, what's going to round out this composition here for Flowstate?
So we definitely see the Morn, we definitely see the Greystone. Greystone may be out here, most likely probably a jungler, unless they really kind of pull something else out here. But I do think, and there it is, the Zarus. So definitely maybe Zarus probably out here running the jungle. Of course, it could flex into that offlane position, but I think with this composition, especially if it's going to be that Sevra getting pushed out there, I think the Zarus is most likely going to be running our jungle here, and going to be an interesting lineup. I think this is a little bit different coming into this, and I'm excited to see this.
Flowstate looking like they want to play in the water, kind of maybe full dive, especially if Morn goes for the Spider Morn augment. Just going to try to jump on the Sparrow in the backline and then go forward and just penetrate through that way. So Blue Jay, what do you think? Who do you like between these two squads right now?
You know, the Revenant pick is still just a little bit outside of me. I think I do like the Mach 10 draft a little bit more, but I'm kind of conflicted between these two because I really like the Zar's pickup for Mercy. I think he's going to be a lot more agile, a lot more active in this game, be able to, contest some fights a little earlier and be around the map more. But there's just a lot of tank on the side of Mach 10, and I'm not seeing a lot of damage coming out from the side of Flowstate to be able to take these guys out unless they get a massive lead in this game. So I think for Flowstate, you're kind of on a ticking clock until you get, once those tanks get 2-3 items into the game, it's going to get kind of hard to be able to contest them with the champions that they have. So I think I'm going to go Mach 10 on this one, but I wouldn't be surprised if Flowstate pushes the pace. If they get ahead by, 2,000-3,000 gold in the early game, I think that they'll be able to snowball it into the later stages of the game, though.
And that's what you wanted to see, that pedal to the metal constantly for the Flowstate side. Liz, which composition you liking?
I think Blue Jay said it best. I think really starting out Mach 10, if they really scale and get their items really early. So I think it's going to be very much an early game. I'm going to give it to Flowstate just because we know how Mercy is. We know that he is he is full in. And I think if they play in that style where I think Blue Jay was mentioning that they're trying to go for that early kind of win, get the objectives, get in, get out, get some early ganks, I do think that they could snowball this. But again, it really comes down to if the ganks are good and viable. But if so, I think Flowstate could win this.
Okay. Well, I don't know. I think I'm liking the Mach 10. I'm a big Argus fan, and I love the steal as a support player myself. So I think I'm liking this Wombo combo. A lot of CC coming down from this side, folks. This is a best of 3. Will Mach 10 take it in 2, or will Flowstate level it? To walk y'all through, we'll give it to Lance and Britterific. My goodness, predecessor fans, we've got another game 3 on our hands. That means more time for Twitch drops, but also more time for predecessor action. HDPhillyB and the desk here with you. Blue Jay, I actually want to start with you first. Sorry, Liz, to mix it up, because Flowstate did exactly what you said. They put the pedal to the metal. Can you break down their composition just a little bit more for the crowd? Oh, okay. Blue Jay, can you hear us?
Hey, sorry, guys, but no, sorry.
Okay.
Could you ask me the question again? I couldn't hear you guys.
All good, friend. Glad to have you back. The AirPods are working. So you mentioned going into this game number 2 that you wanted Flowstate to push the pedal to the metal, do their aggression to the fullest. They did just that. Can you break down their composition just a little bit more for the crowd?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, right off the bat, putting Mercy on that Zar's pick obviously paid dividends into the game, getting able to stack an early Fangtooth, push around the map, get some kills, snowball the laners. And we saw out of the Mach 10 comp, actually, the lack of damage when Sparrow isn't a factor in the game. That's why I was a little surprised seeing that Argus pick come out for them and not something with more sustained damage like a gadget, because when you're into a Greystone, when you're into his Ars, these dive heavy people, and you need to really have some sustained damage to kill them, and your Sparrow's dead, you can't really do it if she's dead, right? So it's like, if Mercy's big and he's onto the Sparrow, it's really hard to play that game, and that's just kind of what ended up happening. Mercy really controlled this game and kind of put the pedal to the metal.
Absolutely. And Liz, we did get to see Norf on the crunch, and it was working so well until it wasn't. What went wrong there with that pick?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Yep.
Okay, perfect. So, sorry guys. So I think the biggest thing coming into this game especially when you have another jungler who is everywhere on the map, and especially with a hero like Crunch, you're not really getting that time to really nourish and farm as much as you want to, especially when you're having to almost not chase, but to be in these other lanes that aren't getting visited, especially when the other jungler has so much room to be active. You know, he's getting those early ganks, those early kills, so he's out here scaling a lot faster than that Crunch is, especially when you do end up in that chase game. It tends to go downhill quite fast as a jungler, and that is exactly what we saw, and as Blue Jay mentioned, and what I was kind of hoping would happen here. And Ritter said it best, I love a comeback game. I love comeback games. I love best of threes. So I'm really excited to see that that's exactly how Mercy played that. He was in the lanes, he was in the objectives. As soon as they're spawning, he said, come get me, and he was ready for it. And he just scaled and helped his team get where they needed to be a lot faster. So it wasn't that scaling game on the side of Mach 10.
Absolutely, that dive composition working to perfection for the side of Flowstate. They now move themselves into a position to get into the grand finals, that money match next weekend, or in July, excuse me. So we still have a lot more Predecessor left to play, folks. We're going to head to a short break. We'll see you on the other side. We love Predecessor. Welcome back, PCC and Predecessor fans. HDPhillyB here, flanked by two fantastic folks, and we have a game 3 on our hands between Mach 10 and Flowstate. Mach 10 took game 1. Flowstate took game 2. We know if you take the game 2, you usually have the momentum moving into game 3. Liz, what's the mentality of both of these squads right now?
Well, I know Mercy is probably just hyped, and when Mercy's hyped, everybody else is getting hyped. So honestly, especially in that case where typically the second winner of the best of 3 has that momentum, I think that's going to be really hefty here going into that for them. I think there's going to be a lot of energy and momentum. I'm not counting Mach 10 out, though. I do think that after that, this is definitely one of those moments where it's like, hey, we got to lock in, we have to kind of respect. We have to respect Mercy. We know that, hey, if we put him against a wall, he's going to be a wild animal. He's going to run around. He's going to take that pick. He's going to take that chance, right? We have some tanky heroes, but it doesn't matter whenever you got somebody that's already 2 levels ahead of you. So, I think they're going to have to just keep that in mind and really try and build a composition that isn't just going to be a late game scaling, something that could potentially be longevity.
Absolutely. And the winner of this, folks, moves on to the grand finals for that chance of that $10,000 NA prize. Blue Jay, these folks have played a grueling set over 2 days worth of Predecessor. The endurance, you're feeling it now, your fingers, your back, your shoulder, your mind, your focus, everything being depleted. How do you amp yourself up moving into this final game?
You just keep thinking about the next step forward. As a competitor, as a player, your goal is to reach the end. And when you're playing against a lot of these players are peers, and a lot of people don't realize that are watching, but they talk a lot with each other and they're scrimming every single day. So just having a competitive nature and wanting to beat your friends, beat your enemies, even if you have a little bad blood between each other, just honestly keeps the juices flowing. And the competitive nature of the game itself is just amazing. So yeah, these guys are amped up. They're ready to go. If they had to play in the July matches right now, they'd play the July matches right now. You know, they're going to keep pushing forward. So it's it's fun to watch, and I don't expect anything less from these two teams than to come out and give us a really good third match.
Absolutely. And we talk about Mercy a lot, right? And he was on a new team, Flowstate, right? When before he was on Mach 10, formerly the Leftovers. So definitely, like you said, a lot of that camaraderie, some frenemies, right? A lot of rivalries between these squads. Maybe he has something cooked up in his brain because he knows how the other team wants to operate, but does he know how they want to draft? Choice plays, send us to it. Here we go. We have our first bans coming through. We've seen the Decker prioritized time and time again. Blue Jay, I'll start with you here. Do you think we'll see the Enchanter being banned out once more?
We'll see. I think just in general, Mach 10 might just revert back to those two bans just because those are key picks that Flowstate has been playing throughout this whole tournament. I do want to note something in last game. When you had Peak on the Morn with, Spider-Man Morn, he was a lot more active on the map. When you have a support that's able to move with a jungler into the enemy side, one, it creates safety for the whole team because you can get extra vision down with a support crest, as well as keeping your jungler in the midst of stealing camps, timing on objectives, catching out enemies. So having a support jungle duo that can move around the map, freely is very important for this Flowstate team, definitely.
Absolutely, and if you can dive with your jungler in there, and especially get the contagion on there, provide that little extra shielding and healing as Mercy's diving in, you're facilitating that carry even more. Liz, once again, it's the same exact band. Has the meta been figured out?
I definitely don't know about just meta, but I do think these are heroes that both teams have really sat down and thought about and said that genuinely they would rather just prioritize these bans against the current teams. And of course, they're also going to take away the Morn. So it seems like I always like to see that whenever the same team that had them likes to ban them, because it shows that they have something else in mind, but they know that it's deadly. And especially considering, hey, if we're not picking it up this time, what usually happens? The other team tends to pick up the problem child, right? So I think this is interesting because this is kind of a bold statement, in my opinion, saying like, hey, we're not taking them more, but we have something up our sleeve. And I'm kind of excited to see what they're going to go ahead and pick up instead.
If I was sitting, I'd be on the edge of my seat because now the Wukong is available for North to play on the side of Mach 10. We do have an opener for the side of Mach 10, and it will be the Steel who can go support, can go jungle, go off lane. So a very versatile pick here, Blue.
Yeah, no, we've seen this pick, and it's actually funny. We've seen this pick from a lot of teams that actually have lost the game and then revert to the Steel because it is such a comfortable choice for teams to play. Very, targeted CC, a lot of CC in fights and able to move around the map freely. But we'll see what Flowstate comes out with. I mean, honestly, Belica Countess, that is an interesting pair. The Countess, like I said, can be flexed between multiple roles on this team, and the Belica, like I said, would most likely go into the mid lane here. So we'll see what Mach 10 comes back with. But I do not hate the Belica into the Steel. It is something that can kind of, CC the Steel up when it's bull rushing in and kind of peel the team a little bit. But as the draft's developing, we'll get a little bit more sense of what these teams want to come out with.
For sure, and maybe that forces the Steel to go for the Bull Rush augment that prevents the CC from coming through so he can make his way into the back line. We know Simba will pilot the Belica, BKB probably on the Countess, so those two kind of figured out. Liz, now we're seeing a double pick here, the Revenant and the Greystone for Mach 10.
I think this is really fun. I love seeing them pick up the Revenant. I think they finally had it with Magoli kind of piloting that guy, and they said, you know what? We're done with you, brother. We're going to run them instead. So save the ban for something else more prioritized, but definitely taking that opportunity to pick up the Revenant. But I think it's even funnier that they're going to go ahead and answer with the Sparrow. They're confident with that. And, we've been saying it since yesterday and since this comp really started building. Sparrow is a really big answer into Revenant and vice versa. So a lot of people tend to run them together. So I like the fact that we're going to see them swapped, especially for this final match. I think that's going to be something almost poetic in a way. But really excited to see how Magoli's going to pilot this Sparrow and not have the Revenant. I think that's going to be fun.
100%, but the thing is now with these carries, they've swapped what character they're playing, but can they swap their mental? Can they slot the new memory card into no? Because these two carries play it very differently.
Yes.
Blue Jay, we're seeing more junglers taken off the board, the Fang Mao and the Xerath.
Yeah, I was expecting the Xerath to come through. That is one that, was going to be an easy pickup on the side of Flowstate. But now it gets a little bit interesting for these teams. You have Flowstate over here, who has a comp that really has a lot of squishier characters on it, and a comp on Mach 10 side that has that Greystone that has been very effective in both of these games. The Wukong is also still up for the side of Mach 10. I'm not quite sure if anyone on Flowstate will be piloting that champion, but Norf still has that champion in his pool. But we do see the Aurora. This is a great pick. Lots of CC. This can actually be played into the support role or the offlane role, or the jungle role. So there's a lot of different things that this pick can be flexed into, and it's actually one that a lot of other teams are playing in their matches currently. So I'm excited to see this character come out, because it provides a lot of CC, a lot of disturbance in these team fights, which is what the Greystone and the Steel hate.
And Mercy, one of the best Auroras in the game. They made their name off this character in PCCX. I mean, if Mercy is piloting the Ice Queen, they can separate the fight, block off objectives, keep the Revenant from getting that fourth shot in. Could be massive here, Liz. Mach 10, though, they're rounding it out. Here's the monkey.
Yes, I do think I like seeing this Aurora come out. I love when Aurora makes it through a ban and actually onto a team, because I do think she is a really great hero in any kind of competitive sense. Objective fights, like you said, objective fights, just crowd control. She has it all, and like her kit is so extensive. You can build her different ways. I love seeing the Aurora, and especially with Mercy. Like you said, he did make his name on that. But of course, what if we do get to see her in a support role? That'd be great, especially having kind of control of those pits over there. But ultimately, I love Aurora. But of course, Mach 10 does get that Wukong, so they said, you let that slip through and we're going to make you pay for that one. So I think that's a great pickup. And of course, the gadget, we've been saying it. I'm so excited to see her picked up here.
Yeah, and this is going to be really deadly in the pits. You go for Shield Slam, Tesla Dome, then High Impact, Stoneforge Soul. I mean, there's a lot of circles within circles. It's a Venn diagram in these pits. So it's going to be tough to navigate. Flowstate, Blue Jay, picking up the Terra to maybe intercept or break up some of those circles.
Yeah, no, the Terra, and then does this mean that the Aurora is going to be going into the support role? You got to look at that right now, because now you're seeing a bunch of different options that could come out on the side of Flowstate. I do like the gadget pickup from Mach 10. I think when you're getting ran down by a lot of these champions, it's a good disengage tool when you already don't have a lot. But the Terra coming right back at that gadget is able to kind of run through that CC and be immune while they're trying to create that chaos in the back line. Norf did pick up that Wukong, so he's going to be on that pick again and hopefully be able to make some plays for them. But yeah, both these comps rounded out pretty interesting. The Flowstate comp is one that I'm actually excited to see where these characters end up going, and it'll be kind of cool to see how this game flows out.
Yeah, and just to round us out here, Blue Jay, which squad are you favoring just a little bit more?
You know what? I think I'm going to take Mach 10 in this one. I think that they're going to bounce back, and I think that they'll take this. I think Norf will have a very good game on this Wukong pick, and I think the Greystone is going to be maybe a little bit too much for these backline carries, Sparrow, Countess, Bellica.
Absolutely. I think I'm favoring them a little bit more. Their comp seems maybe just a speck easier to execute. Where on the other side, Flowstate, they have to be very pinpoint with their abilities to lock some of these characters down, like the monkey, etc., to get it done. Liz, what side do you like?
I had it strong for my Flowstate boys last game, but I see the vision, don't get me wrong, but I do think this team is very niche. And it's one of those that if someone misses the right ability or the right stun, I see it escalating in team fights pretty fast. Like you said, especially if that Steel does get the augment where his bulldoze cannot be stopped right into that back line, it is just straight chaos from there, etc. So I unfortunately am favoring this Mach 10 team, but again, if everybody is hitting what they need to hit on Flowstate, definitely could pull it off. It's just very niche and not as safe and easy to play. So I think I like Mach 10.
Okay, they're going to be looking to get some of the priority in the lanes, Flowstate, so they can make rotations, find people caught out, get those picks, and then rotate to objectives. Where Mach 10, they're just going to bomb in, just everybody ability, will blow everybody away. Doesn't even matter. We are now ready to go for our final time back to Sanctuary for this winners finals match to Lance and Ridderific.
Hey, thank you so much, HDPhillyB, Blue Jay, and Lizadeth. I am still Lance for this game 3. Winner of this gets themselves
MVP for you in that match?
Oh, I think a lot of us can agree in that chat. Peak was running those walls, man. I mean, what a phenomenal showcase of a phenomenal support Aurora, especially. I mean, we kind of touched on it in the draft. I even mentioned how, like, especially as a support Aurora, those walls and those objectives are going to be huge because you're going to be there. You won't have to worry about your solo lane all the way across the map. Be there, and I think Peak played that Aurora so phenomenally. Still a huge shout out to North in that one moment. That was crazy.
Yeah, a great steal from North, even going over the wall, using all the mobility, even the blink as well. Blue Jay, this Countess in the off lane, no one seems to have figured out how to beat it. The Greystone just seemed to fall flat against it in this match.
Yeah, no, that was definitely a big contributing factor in this game. The Countess kind of scaled up and was able to do kind of whatever she wanted in these team fights. When she gets to the point to where she's too tanky to where you can really one-shot her and she can just kind of slip out of these team fights, it becomes really hard because you pour so many of your resources into these characters and then you're just kind of like, oh crap, now we don't have anything to use to deal with everything else, right? But yeah, no, it was just kind of a clinical game coming out from Flowstate. They moved really well across the map. Everywhere Mercy was, Peak was, right? And having an Aurora walling you off and being annoying like this is just a nightmare to deal with, especially as a Revenant who is a lower mobility character in this game. And when you pair that with mobility and CC, it's really hard just to come back in these type of games when you get down.
For sure, yeah. There was an instance where Peak in the mid lane was able to help the dive from Mercy, by cutting off the retreat, so that way he couldn't get aggressed upon. He was able to stay alive, Mercy, even after diving in and taking on a ton of damage and forcing out a ton of abilities. So a really good composition coming out here from the side of Flowstate. They are cooking on all cylinders. They cannot be stopped. They are just winning and winning and winning. I'm sure they have gained a lot of fans here on this PCC Summer Event Series. It has been an awesome desk with you, folks of Predecessor and PCC. We still have one more set to go here today. It will be Team Immune versus Primals in our lower bracket. Liz, what are you looking forward to in that match?
Oh man, I think I'm really mostly excited just at the fact that it is the one lower bracket game that we have today. So I think we're going to have some really good plays coming out here because I think this is going to be a very, very detrimental set of three. So I'm hoping both of these teams come out swinging really hard for that spot. So
Blue Jay, it's our final EU team versus an NA team. Who you liking in that match?
Yeah, I think you're kind of looking at more of a wild card team versus a team that likes to play a very controlled, almost like a normalized MOBA style of play, right? In Immune. And like you said, Europe, one of Europe's top team, definitely a top 2 team coming out of Europe. So it's really cool to see, I'm friends with a lot of the European players and it's cool to see them representing in the North American scene. So yeah, it's kind of going to be a toss up. Primal going to come out, probably try some interesting stuff, play a bit more high tempo. Immune probably going to come out with more of a standard front to back team comp like they've been playing throughout the tournament and just kind of see where that takes them. So it'll be an exciting matchup for sure.
Definitely one we're all hyped for, folks. We're going to head to a short break. We'll see you on the other side.